Welcome to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, your source of strategies and insights to make you a better leader. Influence, improve, inspire.
Hi, it's Zoe, and who do we have on the show today but none other than the amazing Janine Garner. She is one of the most extraordinary business people and women I have ever met. Her energy is fabulous, and I'm delighted to bring her and her expertise on networking, leadership, influence, and collaboration to you today. So Janine's background, she's worked with leadership and high potential teams with some of the world's biggest brands, including Hewlett Packard, Ernst Young, Westpac, CISCO, Scentre Group, CBRE, Clayton Utz, Ralph Lauren, Jaeger, hopefully that's how you pronounce it, and Citizen Watches. She's written 2 books. It's Who You Know and From Me to We, and is a regular contributor to The Australian, The CEO Magazine, Success Magazine, and Sky Business. Not only that, she has an honorary doctorate in science from Aston University in the UK, is the winner of an International Stevie Award, was voted one of Dare Magazine's top 10 Daredevil women of 2013, and one of the most inspiring women of Madison Magazine. Phew! So what a powerhouse woman. And what I love about Janine is that she embodies what she preaches. She is a woman of connection, of collaboration, of humility, and of service. So welcome, Janine.
Thank you for having me, Zoe. It's wonderful to be here.
It is wonderful for you to. I think I'm more excited than you are, to be truthful. But anyway, it's great to have you here. So first thing people are going to notice is your crazy accent. How did you end up in Australia, and where did you come from?
So I'm originally from the north of England. I was born in a little village outside of Leeds and grew up pretty much working class farmer's girl. In an environment where, to be honest, it was pretty much the norm to stay in that village and hopefully grow old in that village. But at the age of 18, I was first generation to leave home and go to uni, and I went to university in the Midlands in Birmingham at Aston University. And then after graduating and getting a Bachelor of Science degree, I moved to London. So I never went back to Yorkshire. I moved away at the age of 18, ended up in London, and that's where I started my corporate career. And then 17 years ago, I left London and arrived in Australia. And I've been in Australia ever since. So, yeah, I've got a little bit of a mixed bag of an accent. And, yeah, it does get stronger. The Yorkshire accent gets stronger when I come across fellow Yorkshire people. But, yeah, gradually travelled further south is what I like to tell people.
That's true. From London or from Yorkshire down to Australia, that is pretty south. And
It is.
Like you, I'm imported to Australia as well, and I've been here just a little bit longer than you. But my accent, Canadian one, doesn't shift either. So there you have it. So I have a little bit of empathy for what it means to pick up and move around the globe, and I love that this is your story, because it's also your story and how you built this whole concept of collaboration and networking, particularly your latest book, which I absolutely love. And I've just ordered a whole set for my mastermind group, in terms of turning on its head this whole concept of networking. And one of the things that you say is networking still matters, but it's your network that matters more. So tell me about that. What is it about networking, developing a network, that is so important to you, especially since you arrived in Australia, I'm imagining, with not much of a network?
Oh, I arrived in Australia with a backpack. So I left everything in England. I left a corporate job. I left where I was living, clothes, belongings, a car, and arrived in Australia with a backpack. And so pretty much started from scratch and had to build my career all over again. And I can honestly say it's probably one of the hardest things that I've done in terms of moving countries. I thought it was going to be easier, assuming that, speak the same language. Generally, we look pretty similar, like we can fit in, but it's culturally one of the hardest things I've done, both from a business perspective and a personal perspective. And so when I look back, I initially started life in Melbourne and arrived in Sydney because we couldn't find work in Melbourne, and pretty much spent that first 3 months in Sydney bunking down with people we'd met backpacking. And I restarted my career doing an EA job for a senior leader in a professional services firm until I could find my dream job, and spent 17 years rebuilding that career. But what I learned through doing that is this concept of networking as we currently know it is just totally warped. It is a business card swapping fest of superficial connections, where essentially it's a transactional relationship, which is all around the transfer of information and hopefully doing business. And hence why so many people just almost feel sick at the thought of networking. I don't think I've spoken anywhere in the last 6 years where I've mentioned the word networking and everybody has jumped off their seats and fist pumped the air going, yeah, I love it. I reckon the majority, I'd say 95% of people go, I can't stand it, vomit in my mouth, get me out of here. But what's quite interesting is when I look at my professional career and then how I've built the business over the last 6 years, or my practice over the last 6 years, and the relationships that I've subsequently built, is this power of having very deep, diverse and connected relationships that will actually help build you and achieve your dreams. So that concept of networking matters, but your network matters more, I think is more important than ever before. We're living in a really crazy world that is moving much quicker than the majority of us can keep up with, both in terms of the knowledge, the advancements through technology, and even changes in society. And the reality is we cannot move quick enough on our own. You only have to look at status updates. Most people are saying I'm busy. It's just become the MO of most people's responses. Jobs are taken before they're being advertised. Collaborations are happening out of the woodwork, and we're sort of almost in shock at where they've come from, let alone the fact that even now I was speaking to someone this morning and go, oh my God, Christmas is just around the corner. I'm like, it's always just been around the corner as of this day. You know, time is moving so quickly. And so we cannot move quick enough alone, nor can we find the answers to the problems alone, nor can we survive in this crazy world alone. And so the concept within It's Who You Know is really about acknowledging that we still need to network for business. There is no doubt in my mind that we have to go out there and network and build connections and sales funnel, and hopefully through our conversations convert those to sales. It's absolutely needed. And that in my mind is networking 101. But what's missing for the majority of people is when I challenge them to imagine themselves being smack bang in the middle of a tight, connected group of people that are there to support them, who are those people? And this, to me, is the opportunity that exists for every single one of us, whether you're in a corporate organization, in your own business, whether it be how you're managing your clients, this opportunity to have a connected network that I talk to around starting with 4 people and going up to 12 people, of people that are there for you, that will push you harder than you can ever go yourself, that see possibility in you, that open doors for you, that keep you solid and true and on track, and that challenge your thinking and develop your mastery, that are absolutely there to see you succeed because they believe in you. That's where the opportunity exists. And that is the concept and the thinking that I talk to in the book, It's Who You Know.
And I love this as a concept, and that you challenge people to think about this, because I think it is a challenge. And I was actually speaking at an EA summit yesterday, of all things. It's funny that you started off as an EA on the concept of networking. And I was quoting you and your book about this idea of being at the center of a network where you pull together people who are there to support you. And they kind of looked like deer in headlights, like, ooh, because I started listing some of the archetypes that you list in your book, and which we'll touch on in a second, and who had those archetypes in their network. And hardly anybody had the key archetype. They did not have even just the 4 basic people around them supporting them. And I think that is a radical concept for people to think about. Whoa, how do I craft a support network? And am I worthy of that? Because I think underlying some of the fear and concern around that is like, that sounds selfish. So tell me about how you respond to that kind of resistance to this idea of being at the center, at the nexus of your network.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it that it's incredibly strategic and it's very personal. But at the end of the day, we are all faking it till we make it currently and pretending to be who we're not. And there are too many people out there that are doing jobs that they dislike, that are unhappy with their career progress, and that are frustrated that they can't get to where they want to get to. And it's because they haven't got a network around them. And as much as it is strategic in terms of who is there to support you, at the same time, it is incredibly amplified and leverageable in terms of the relationships that you build become very deep, very connected, where it is an absolute transfer of humanity, of dreams, of goals and successes, and there is this ongoing value exchange of information to help each other grow. So for me, it is absolutely a mindset shift. And I have heard the same thing. I train a lot of C-suite and above, and I don't think I've ever come across anybody that has the 4 quadrants that I talk about in the book of the promoter, the pit crew, the teacher, and the butt kicker. Very few people have all 4. And to me, this is a reason why so many of us are struggling and getting frustrated and stuck in terms of both our personal career progress, but also our growth, the growth of our businesses. It starts essentially with you. And I think that is why it's such a scary place for a lot of people, because I challenge people, what do you want? What do you want to do? If we are now at this time of recording on X date, in 12 months' time, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to achieve financially? What do you want to achieve in your career or your business? What do you want to achieve with your family? What do you want to achieve with your bucket list? You know, what projects that matter to you do you want to actually happen over the next 12 months? And people go, oh my God, I haven't even thought of that. And so it actually starts with you nailing that. And then my question to people is, what are you great at? And again, is this acknowledgement and ownership of individual superpowers and strengths, and at the same time, therefore, identifying your own weaknesses. And then the next question I ask is, okay, so who's going to help you? And that is usually where people pause and stop and go, oh gosh, I know a lot of people, but I'm not sure I can identify the specific people that are going to help me get this. And to me, this is the tipping point. And it takes a hell of a lot of bravery, a hell of a lot of personal confidence, and a hell of a lot of personal conviction and commitment to your own personal goals and dreams. But when you own that, and when you then go out and connect with people that matter to you, that are able to share information that's going to help you grow, and that through developing that relationship, you're able to help them get better. When you build that relationship from a place of absolute care and compassion for somebody else's success before your own, it becomes incredibly powerful. And I'm a living and breathing example of what I talk about in the book, because essentially I'm really connected in terms of the sheer amount of people I know from a business perspective, but I have a very tight, diverse network of 12 people that are really clear on what I'm trying to achieve over the next 12 months, and that I will have focused conversations with to enable me to get there, and at the same time I'm there to back them up. And it is much easier to manage a smaller group of people, to give back to a smaller group of people, to amplify that relationship, to deepen that relationship, and to ensure that it's not a case of give or take, but it's a case of mutual value exchange, of give and take, to ensure mutual success over that period of time. So I'm totally flipping people's brains on it, I know.
And actually, it fits in well with the research that Adam Grant's done. I'm not sure if you've come across his book, Give and Take, actually. You've read it, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
And that whole philosophy, your philosophy, marries well with his research, which says that the most successful people at work are givers. And yet it's a particular kind of giver. It's those who give generously of themselves and who are also ambitious for themselves. So they don't do give as a tit for tat thing. They give because they care about somebody else. And then in a separate exchange, separate relationship even, they're also ambitious to getting support for themselves, which is your philosophy in action when it comes to building a network that you're at the center of it. So, and it's a powerful way to be, and organizations benefit from that because witnessing acts of generosity builds that sense of oxytocin and the sense of trust and engagement in the workplace. So I want to actually talk about the brass tacks a little bit because you mentioned them briefly, the 4 key archetypes in the book. Can we just run through each of those so people have a sense of them?
Yeah, of course we can. So the 4 quadrants, and where I suggest people start in terms of identifying your core 4 first, are the promoter, the pit crew, the teacher, and the butt kicker. Now, I'll give a very quick description of each of them. The promoter essentially is there to help you become more than you are right now. They see possibility in you. They rave about you. They cheerlead you all the way. They promote you. They open doors for you. They are your walking billboard. And you need this promoter because when we're moving so quickly, when businesses are evolving at a crazy speed of change, we need to ensure that there are people out there that are raving about us when we're not in the room. There are people out there that are opening doors for us and creating career growth opportunities or business opportunities for us. And if you're in a business, we need to ensure that you've got the promoter within the business that is making sure your profile is being lifted in the appropriate way. And I often say to people, for those of us with kids, we do this all the time for our children. And when we were children, our parents did it for us. So what happens when we grow up? Where does that cheerleader go? Where's that person that just is going, you can be whatever you want to be. I think you're amazing. Let's do this. So the promoter is essential. The second quadrant revolves around what I call the pit crew. And the pit crew essentially is making sure you are safe, you're secure, they're keeping you in the present, they're making sure that you are not letting untoward emotions get the better of you. So this is the person that, if you want to, bounce back an email because you're so angry and you get really pissed off with the feedback that you've got and you're there slamming away on the keyboard, this is the person that would almost go, hang on a second, Let's just think about this. Let's just check in because actually that advice that you've got or their feedback may actually be right. And the thing about the pit crew is they don't give a damn about your job title, where you went to school, who you work for, the car you drive, how much money you're earning. They just care about you. These are the people that will pick up the phone and go, how are you today? And they're so important for us in this busy, busy, busy world where we have got burnout going through the roof, we've got depression going through the roof, we've got lack of sleep and insane fatigue going through the roof, marriage breakdown, etc., etc. We need the pit crew to make sure we are okay. The third quadrant I call the teacher, and the teacher essentially is all about making sure you know more. We are living in a world where there is a hell of a lot of beigeness, where people think that their job title and their business card is all that matters. You see it on LinkedIn every day, and it's just boring and it's beige, and you need to stand out and be different. So the teacher is important for us because they're all about helping you become better. They're challenging your knowledge and your insight. They're teaching you more so that you can start having that unique positioning either in your marketplace, in the company you work within, in the industry. They're about developing your thinking. And a lot of us avoid the teacher because there are so many people out there that just think they've got the qualification, all is good, thank you very much, or they avoid the tension that exists with learning. Seth Godin wrote a brilliant blog about it recently. He's a marketeer out of the US, and he basically talked about the tension that exists with learning, whereby you go into a situation going, I know everything, I'm okay, and then you can feel this tension as you're being challenged cerebrally in terms of some learning, and you've got to push through it. But so many of us avoid pushing through that tension because it's much safer to stay exactly where we are. But if you can get through that tension, if you can listen to that teacher, if you can be guided through that learning, this is where the mastery kicks in and you start getting known for what it is that you stand for. And the fourth quadrant is the butt kicker. and very descriptive in that is exactly what they do. They are all about making sure you do more, that you deliver on your promises, that you are held accountable for your goals and dreams, that you follow through on what you've committed to. And it's incredible, Zoe, how many people I talk to that I train in organizations that actually will say, God, I don't have a butt kicker. Particularly any matrix-style organizations, or even people that are out there on their own, building their own practice. It's having that person that you are accountable to on a regular basis to make sure that you get stuff done, that you don't follow the shiny stuff, that you keep focused on doing the right work at the right time to make sure you're making progress. So it's the promoter that's all about helping you become more, the pit crew that's all about you caring more, the teacher that's all about you knowing more, and the butt kicker that's all about you doing more.
Cool. I love that. And I was, as you're going through them, imagining myself being those people for other people, and how rewarding that is to think of yourself in those roles for other people. And I think that's a helpful realization that it's actually a position of privilege to be somebody's support like that. So if you're asking somebody to do that for you, it's less about asking them for a favor, more about doing them a favor, because what a privilege it is to be a promoter for somebody or to be their pit crew and so on. And I love how it's an invitation to build connection and deepen relationships. So I have a question for you. I've got a client who's moving from Sydney to Bathurst. So she's leaving the big city. She's moving to a small country town. She doesn't have a network there. She's got maybe some family, but that's about it. And she's nervous because she doesn't have any contacts. So you've been there before. You've moved all the way around the world with nothing. What do you suggest to her in terms of how does she start going? How does she make connections and get people into her four quadrants?
Well, first of all, she's got to appreciate that it's going to require a bit of effort. And like anything in life, a bit of work and commitment. So a bit like when I was recently mentoring a senior exec from an IT company. He'd chosen redundancy. He'd been in this company for a long time. And he was like, oh, my God, Janine, how am I going to find another job? And I went, well, first of all, you need to make sure you've got budget for lots of coffees. And then we've got to work out who you're going to catch up with. And it's the same thing that whether you're moving country, city, jobs, locations, you have to put in a bit of effort and hard work. So that's the first thing. The second thing is working out what she wants. So we can go out willy-nilly, meeting people, connecting with people, and this is where that superficial connections happen, and we end up feeling drained and exhausted because we're not getting anywhere. So it requires a little bit of time to go, okay, what do I already have and what is actually missing? And then I say to people, it'll be closer than you think. So you mentioned she had family. Yeah. Reach out initially to your family. Do you know anyone who? Can you introduce me to? Get onto LinkedIn. So reach out to people you already know and ask for introductions. LinkedIn obviously is a classic one where you can absolutely triangulate and triage the search there to find people. And then finally work out where people that you're looking for hang out locally, because they will be there. And then once you've it's almost like you do your audit and your discovery first, and then you've got to go and take action and get out there. Now, here's where, again, it takes a bit of work, because let's imagine that you found somebody you want to connect to. I say to people, show the respect for time and ask them one question. And people say to me, what do you mean, Janine? I said, well, if you know that you want to meet X person, Y person, and Z person, why do you want to meet them? What's the one question you want to ask them? Have you done your research? What is it about them that inspires you, that interests you, that is driving this desire to meet them? And get really clear on your one key question, and then ask them that question. So, for example, I don't know, what your client does, but let's imagine she wanted to connect with some senior leader in Bathurst or some senior business owner in Bathurst. Get in contact and say, can I buy you a coffee and grab 15 minutes of your time, because I want to ask you what is the one thing you would recommend I do, being new to this community, in terms of trying to connect with influential people in Bathurst, because you've done it and I want to learn from you. Because when you're clear on your question, people will answer, or they will connect you in with somebody else who can answer that question better. The worst thing you can do is go, can I grab you a coffee? Can we meet for a coffee? It's like the biggest time waster. So for your client, it's about getting really clear on what it is that she's looking for in terms of help and support, who is currently missing from her network.
Yeah.
And then I'd first of all reach out and be brave enough and courageous enough to ask the people already that she knows in Bathurst, can you introduce me to somebody? Can you connect me in with? And then identify where to hang out and get really clear on who's going to be there, what questions you want to ask. And it requires you to make the effort. It's not going to come to you without putting that effort in. And I come across too many people that it's like launching a website and then wondering why there's no traffic coming to it. You have to put in the effort to drive traffic. It's the same with this. Building a network that matters to you requires commitment, it requires time, it requires energy, it requires you to give more than you can take initially. And it requires you to care about the people that you're meeting with. But if you put in that effort, it becomes, someone said to me the other day, I get it, Janine, it's not a short-term game, it's a long-term game. I said, yeah, absolutely. Because it becomes one of the powerful assets within your arsenal that will allow you to achieve whatever you want to achieve.
So that's fabulous advice, and she'll get so much value out of your answer. So thank you for that. I've got a client at a different end of the spectrum. He's a high-level CEO. He's grown the business by 60% over the last 4 years, like huge growth. And he actually does those roles, promoter, pit crew, butt kicker, and teacher ad nauseum for other people. And he has very little in his camp. So he's time poor, he's drained. Does your advice vary at all for him, apart from doing these exact same steps, determine what he wants and approach people, etc.? Is there anything to tweak for his particular situation?
I mean, the steps are exactly the same, but it's just where he will go and hang out maybe a little bit different. And now he may have to get a little bit more focused one-on-one. The biggest thing for him is to understand, and I literally I was asked to go in to do some work for a client recently. A CEO of an organization rang me. I've read your book, Janine. My organization is about to get made, or the part of my organization is about to get made redundant. I'm worried about my senior leadership team because they're giving to everybody else, and I'm worried that they're not going to sort themselves out. And the same thing of if we're not careful as leaders, we can give so much to other people. And so it doesn't surprise me that he's built his business by 60% over 4 years because he's built an incredibly strong team. But at the same time, like that, the analogy of attach the oxygen mask to yourself first before you help others has to kick in. So at some point, if he does not surround himself with people that are smarter than him, that will challenge his thinking, that will show him different insight, where he's got that support network, where he feels like he has the support of a broader audience of people that get his challenges, then there comes a point where it gets stagnant in terms of that growth. And so the reason he needs a network is because he's time poor. The reason he needs a network is because he's drained, and he'll be drained physically and mentally. And so for me, if I was working with him, it would be much more tighter prep work, more one-on-one introductory work, sitting down and actually having a lunch or a coffee with some key people and changing the level of conversation slightly. But the steps are the same. What do you want? Who do you already know? Have you reached out to them and asked for their help? Who's missing? Let's go and find them. I've got a client at the moment who is looking for the next CEO position. She's currently a CFO, and we were talking yesterday. And I said to her, your plan now is we've got to introduce you to the right level of CEOs. You've got to stop having CFO conversations. We need to now start having CEO conversations in the sorts of organizations you want to work in. Another client, I shared this story in the book, was very well connected. She reached a senior position in a multinational property company, and she suddenly felt really disconnected and lonely. And it was because she hadn't enabled or allowed her network to evolve with her. There comes a point for all of us where we've got to acknowledge that our network is a living and breathing organism that absolutely has to evolve with our dreams and our goals. And there are too many people that I come across that stayed hanging out with the same people all the time. And if you're developing intellectually, or you're developing through your business, or you're developing within your organization, you have to make sure that your network evolves with you. That will constantly push and pull you and challenge your thinking, because that's how we get better. And it ensures that we move out of any groupthink or any stayed beige thinking. So your CEO that you're referring to, now's the time where he or she needs to absolutely focus on getting these core people around them that are going to enable them to continue to scale their business at the rate that it's going at, because with that growth comes different challenges. And often, if we don't find the people that have been through that same challenge, we can get stuck and it can fall apart. So it takes a level of ownership. It's a level of responsibility that, particularly at that level, they need to make sure they've got that support network, that trusted network around them that can help them continue to provide the environment, the organizational growth, the future thinking that will keep people within that organization safe into the future.
I think that's a great point, is that it's a liability if the CEO doesn't have the right support around them, for sure. Because if they fall in a heap, the whole business falls in a heap. And so it actually becomes a compelling reason or a obligation to build your network. The other great observation is that, we're growing and evolving. The people that we hang out with should grow and evolve. And I think within that is always the question is, how do we let people go? So how do you do that? You know, people who are no longer a fit for who you are, where you're up to, how do you handle that part?
I often say to people, whatever you do, you can't go all Donald Trump and people and fire people. It's more about you being aware that managing and building and securing and leveraging and nurturing your network takes time and energy. But all of it comes back to you having a level of self-awareness of, are you giving value to others and are you gaining value from others? So there's a chapter in the book where I talk about shadow archetypes, and essentially these are the people that hold you back, that may steal your dreams and keep you small and put you in boxes. And half of the time it's because they don't understand what it is that you want to do. And you have a choice. Your choice is you continue to invest in them and bang your head against a brick wall and get frustrated with them, or you have a choice to move away. And it's up to you how you do it. It could be as simple as, not seeing them as often as you normally would. It could be as simple as not taking phone calls. It could be as simple as, you just naturally, the relationship falls apart and disappears as you build another one. And I think sometimes we can get so wrapped up in the black and white of a relationship, and it doesn't have to be like that. So if I look at my network and how it's evolved and changed over the 17 years of being in Australia, there are times you just move on. It's like with any friendship. You just move on and you don't see as much of people. I think the bigger challenge is if you work with some of these people. So I've had quite a few people I've spoken to recently where they've literally gone, oh my gosh, Janine, that's my boss. How do I manage it when it's my boss? And I go, well, it's the same thing really, in that if you know that your boss is having that negative impact on you, that they're eating away at your confidence, they're making you feel small, you feel like you're not getting anywhere, you still have a choice as to how you respond in that situation. And with awareness comes incredible opportunity to put boundaries up and manage your energy. And the person that you go to for your pit crew, your teacher, your promoter, or your butt kicker doesn't necessarily have to be your direct manager. It can be other people in the company. And I think too many of us get so black and white and rigid and structured in our thinking that we lose this whole concept of the fact that everything is a choice. And it all comes down to you, and it all comes down to you owning your dreams, your goals, your successes, your failures, what it is that you're doing with your life, and the decisions that you're making, and equally the people that you are investing your precious time in. to grow yourself and them at the same time. So I just let relationships go and I just move on, to be honest. Honestly, every 12 months, I look at my goals for the year, which is what I'm currently doing now. I map out my network according to those goals, and I go, where are my gaps? And then I seek out those gaps. And if there's anybody over the last 12 months that has just caused me angst or friction, in my head, I just know I'm not going to choose to spend a significant amount of time with them this year. I'm going to replace that with people that are positive. You are, as Jim Rohn says, the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So it seems crazy to me to surround yourself with people that are going to keep you small. Why not surround yourself with people that are big picture thinkers, cup half full thinkers, believers in possibility, people that will fill your confidence? To me, it's a no-brainer.
I think that's a beautiful observation to make at the end, is that we can let people drain us. And I think far too many people stay in old relationships, old friendships out of a sense of duty and obligation. And when we finally snip that out of our life, oh my God, the world is such a rosier, sunnier, happier place. And I'm always I'm one for that. This is one of my Achilles heels, that sense of duty and obligation. I've stayed on in jobs and relationships far too long because I thought it was the right thing to do. And it was such the wrong thing to do because I was miserable. And if you're miserable, they're not doing so well either on the other end of it. So liberate each other, I think is
I think the reality, Zoe, is life is too short. And I'm a big believer in seeing positivity in people, in trying to enjoy moments and learn all the time. And, anybody that knows me really well will tell you I cannot abide excuses, and I cannot abide drama, and I cannot abide gossip. And so as soon as that starts coming in, I will walk away from it because I don't need negative energy in my world. But it comes also down to clients, to be honest, where, we've all had them, or staff, clients or members of staff, where it becomes more of a battle and a friction place. And it's that ownership and bravery to go, enough, I can't do this anymore. Whereas most people just put up with it. So it's ownership. It's total ownership in my mind.
Beautiful. So my last question for you is about next year, since you're doing some focus for that. So you've been about collaboration, you've been about connection. What does next year have in store for you? What are you creating?
Oh, my goodness. I am really excited about next year. So I have my word for next year. Every year I set up a word and a focus for next year. And my word and focus for next year is Braveheart. And I know it's so exciting. And there's various plans and goals into that. There's more work I want to do with It's Who You Know. I will be developing a public online program associated with it. I am expanding the IP at the moment because to me the next level of this is how do you take this concept and bring it across to managing clients. Again, it's something I do naturally. When I look at my clients that I've had for many years, I have built those 4 people within those clients. How we use it internally to break down silos. So there's a load of work yet still. I haven't finished. I'm not done at all with this It's Who You Know concept. And it's about going bigger, braver and bolder and taking out to that global platform. So next year's a big one for me in terms of expanding the IP that I've got and increasing the global reach of it.
That's fantastic. I get a little tear in my eye thinking about that. But it's just the concept of consciously and deliberately creating organizations where people are out for each other and supporting each other. That will have a huge ripple effect of positivity around the world. Oh, so thank you so much for you and for the work that you're bringing to the world. And your energy is so infectious and it's very uplifting. So thank you so much for sharing, Janine. You've been amazing.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.